You know that very specific creeping tension you sometimes feel when you're just sitting at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon?
Oh, yeah, that nagging feeling.
Exactly. It's that feeling where you look around and you realize, like, you have given so much of your life, your energy, your early mornings to this company.
Hmm.
And you feel this deep, almost moral obligation to be dedicated to them. But quietly in the back of your mind, there's this voice wondering, like, do they actually have my back?
Right. Are they as dedicated to me as I am to them?
Exactly. And that tension is exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at this fascinating stack of sources, exploring the whole concept of loyalty to companies that, well, aren't loyal back.
It's such an important topic.
It really is. And, while a lot of the initial research we're diving into started by analyzing career mistakes that women frequently make, the sheer arithmetic of it all and the underlying psychology we're going to unpack, it applies to absolutely anyone navigating the modern workforce today.
Oh, without a doubt.
So, our mission for this deep dive is to fundamentally rewire how you, the listener, view corporate loyalty. We want to transform it from this heavy emotional obligation you carry around into a sharp, highly strategic asset. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, because if we connect this to the bigger picture, the overarching reality of the labor market is actually pretty stark.
How so?
Well, a vast majority of really dedicated professionals are operating on a completely outdated social contract. We're essentially playing by rules that were abolished, decades ago.
Wow, decades.
Yeah, and the failure to realize that the game has fundamentally changed is costing hardworking people hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of their careers.
Hundreds of thousands. That's hard to even wrap your head around.
It is.
To really ground how insidious this can be, let's look at a story from our sources. There's this anecdote about a woman who gave 11 years to her organization.
11 whole years.
11 years. She did the early mornings, she did the late nights, the missed weekends. She consistently went above and beyond to the point where, it wasn't even seen as extra effort anymore by her management.
Right, it just becomes the new baseline.
Exactly. That extra effort just became her job.
And it's not like her tenure there was just a smooth ride either. I mean, the sources point out she's survived 4 separate corporate restructures over that decade.
Which is incredibly stressful.
Highly stressful. She even trained newer employees who were then eventually promoted above her.
Oh, that stings.
Right. She was the absolute definition of loyal, steady, and dependable through every single storm that organization faced.
She really was. And her grand reward for over a decade of unshakable loyalty, it was a 40-minute meeting with HR where they made her role redundant.
Unbelievable.
40 minutes. And they calculated her statutory redundancy pay to the absolute letter of the law. I mean, not a single penny more than legally required.
Of course.
They handed her this completely impersonal reference letter. But perhaps the coldest part of the entire ordeal was from her direct manager.
Oh, this part is brutal.
It is. This was someone she had personally supported through 2 of his own career transitions. And he sent her a WhatsApp message.
A text message.
A text. It just said, "So sorry about this. You'll land on your feet."
And, that cold WhatsApp message, it isn't just one bad manager being thoughtless.
No.
No, it's a symptom of a completely broken system. Sitting in her car afterward, she had this devastating epiphany that the company had never actually been loyal to her.
Wow.
She had simply been loyal to the idea that it would be.
That is heavy. It forces you into this incredibly uncomfortable realization, right? And I'll quote the text here. "A company is not a person. It does not love you back. It does not remember what you sacrificed."
It's just a structure.
Right. It's a structure, and your relationship with it should be strategic, not sentimental.
Exactly. And we really have to ask why so many of us fall into this trap in the first place. The research actually refers to this as the loyalty myth.
The loyalty myth.
Yeah, and it stems from a very specific economic era, roughly between, say, 1950 and 1980.
Okay.
Back then, a reciprocal corporate loyalty contract actually existed in a lot of sectors. You gave a company your entire working life, and in exchange, they gave you genuine long-term job security, a guaranteed pension, and, the metaphorical gold watch at retirement.
Right. So for a certain generation, that deal was completely tangible. It was real.
It was very real.
But so operating on that old mid-century contract today is essentially like trying to use a map from like 1970 to navigate modern traffic.
That's a great way to put it.
You're looking for landmarks that were demolished 30 years ago. You're ignoring the new expressways and then wondering why you're constantly stuck in traffic.
Exactly.
It's not just unhelpful. Financially, it's incredibly dangerous.
It's extremely dangerous. Because the modern workplace operates on a fundamentally different set of mechanics now. It's driven by quarterly targets, uh, shareholder returns, cost optimization, workforce agility.
All those buzzwords.
Right. But what they mean in practice is that modern companies restructure, they downsize, offshore, and automate with a decisiveness that has absolutely zero sentiment attached to it.
Zero.
And the labor market data consistently backs this up. I mean, employees who stay with the same organization for more than 2 to 3 years without a significant promotion or pay increase, they earn significantly less over their careers than those who move strategically.
Because internal pay raises offered to existing employees almost never match the budgets that companies have to acquire new talent on the open market, right?
Precisely. The fastest way to increase your salary in most industries is literally just to change employers.
Wow.
Changing employers isn't disloyalty. The text says this is arithmetic.
It's just arithmetic. So if the math is that crystal clear, like, if staying too long actively drains our earning potential, why do we stay?
It's a great question.
Why do so many talented professionals just linger in roles that have completely stopped serving them? From the sources, it seems it largely comes down to the friction of leaving, which manifests in these psychological traps.
Oh, the psychological traps are huge.
Yeah. And the most brutal one is the sunk cost trap.
The sunk cost fallacy is incredibly powerful. You look at your current job and you think about the years you've invested, the relationships you've built, the highly specific institutional knowledge you've acquired.
Yeah, you know how all the specific software works.
Right. And leaving feels like taking a giant eraser to all that effort.
Right, because the human brain inherently hates losing an investment. We think, if we leave, we're throwing away all that accumulated equity.
But the reality of a sunk cost is that it's already spent. Those years are gone regardless of what you do tomorrow.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. But staying in a job that has stopped advancing your career doesn't recover those past years. It just guarantees you'll lose the future ones too.
Wow. Yeah. And then there's the fear of the unknown. That's the second trap.
Oh, the fear of the unknown is paralyzing. Your current role might be uncomfortable, maybe even deeply frustrating, but it is a known discomfort.
You know exactly who the annoying people are.
Exactly. You know how to navigate it. A new organization is just a blank space full of variables, like who will the new manager be? What if the culture is toxic? What if I fail?
Which, to be fair, are completely rational questions to ask when you're looking at a job change.
They are rational questions,
Hmm.
but we often fail to distinguish between fears and facts.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, a hypothetical negative outcome at a new job, that is a fear. The stagnation you are currently experiencing, that is a fact.
Oh, wow. Fears, not facts.
Right. Allowing the fear of a hypothetical negative to dictate your career is what keeps countless talented people in jobs that are quietly starving their potential.
That makes so much sense. And a lot of that friction also comes from the third trap, guilt and relationship ties.
Yes.
We form deep emotional bonds with our colleagues. Leaving feels like you're abandoning people who depend on you in the trenches.
Yeah, you think, if I leave right now, my team is going to drown.
Exactly. Or you fall into the fourth trap, which is timing paralysis. You tell yourself, oh, I'll just wait until this massive project is done, or I'll wait until after the new restructure settles.
But you have to remember the structural truth of the corporate world. The organization existed before you arrived, and it will continue after you leave.
Everyone is replaceable.
They are. Your team will adjust. Your manager will hire someone new. Choosing your own career growth or protecting your own financial future, it does not make you a traitor to your colleagues.
No, it doesn't. Now, there is one more rationalization in the sources, the fifth trap, that comes up constantly, and that's the idea of stability.
Ah, yes. Stability.
People tell themselves, well, I'm not growing, and the pay isn't great, but at least it's stable. And I want to play devil's advocate here for just a second.
Go for it.
If someone has a mortgage, kids, or caregiving duties, isn't holding on to a stable job exactly what a responsible person should be doing? Like, calling stability a trap feels a bit reckless, doesn't it?
That is a crucial pushback, and it forces us to redefine what stability actually means in a modern economic context.
Okay.
The research we're looking at absolutely values stability, but it draws a fierce, bright line between true stability and mere stagnation.
What's the difference?
True stability means your compensation is keeping pace with the market and inflation, and your skills are remaining relevant.
Okay.
If you're in a job that pays you below your market value, where you are learning absolutely nothing new and your energy is constantly depleted, Well, that is not stable.
Really?
You might feel secure simply because you know where your desk is, but financially and professionally, you are slowly bleeding out. The text perfectly calls it a slow drain dressed up as security.
A slow drain dressed up as security. That is, wow, that's a heavy realization.
It really changes how you look at a dead-end job.
It does, and I want to transition from the emotional side of that slow drain to the literal numerical cost of
You
it.
tell stock numbers.
Because in our sources, this is referred to as the loyalty tax. And here's where it gets really interesting. To understand the mechanics of this tax, we need to look at a case study from the text about a woman named Chinwei.
Chinwei's story is the perfect illustration of how internal salary mechanics actively work against loyal employees.
Okay, so Chinwei joins her company at a starting salary of $42,000.
Right.
Over 11 years of dedicated loyalty, she receives standard annual increases averaging about 2.5%.
Which is pretty standard.
Yeah. The company frames this to her as keeping you whole, basically tossing her a cost of living adjustment that barely keeps her head above inflation.
Early.
So, after 11 years of steady, dependable work, her salary has crept up to $55,000.
Okay, so she's at 55K.
Then, totally out of the blue, a recruiter contacts her about an open role in the exact same industry with similar responsibilities at a comparable organization.
And what's the offer?
The market rate salary they're offering is $78,000.
$78,000.
$78,000. She is currently making $55,000 to do essentially the exact same job.
It's wild.
So let's break down the math here, because the loyalty tax isn't just a one-time penalty, is it?
No, it compounds. Look at the numbers. Her current salary versus the open market rate creates a gap of $23,000 per year.
Every single year.
Every year. That is her annual loyalty tax. Now, if we look back just over the last 5 years of her tenure, assuming that gap had already widened significantly, she lost out on roughly $115,000 in under-earned income.
$115,000. That is a staggering amount of money to lose just for being dependable.
But the mechanics of wealth building make it so much worse.
Oh, no.
Because that $115K is just the raw cash. We also have to calculate what that money would have done if she actually had it in her bank account.
Right, like investments.
Exactly. What about the lost employer pension contributions on that higher salary? What about compound interest?
Oh, wow.
If you run the numbers on what she could have done by taking that extra $23,000 a year and putting it into a standard index fund, returning, say, 8%, she lost out on approximately $140,000 of investment growth over that same period.
So wait, you add the $115,000 of lost base income to the $140,000 of lost investment growth.
Yep.
The total estimated cost of Chinwei's loyalty to this single company is over $265,000.
Over $250,000.
Evaporated.
That is just sickening.
And what's fascinating here is that the most insidious part of this mechanism is that Chinwei didn't even know she was paying this tax.
Right, because nobody tells you.
Exactly. Nobody at her company was ever going to sit her down in a performance review and say, hey, Chinwei, you're doing great, but just so you know, you could be making $23,000 more across the street.
They would never say that.
Never. Companies don't volunteer this information. The market moves forward, but internal HR salary bands simply do not keep up unless you force them to. Okay, so if we are all potentially bleeding hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wages and compound interest, how do we know? Like, how do you, the listener, assess your specific situation?
You have to read the room. There are quiet, structural signals organizations send when your growth is no longer their priority.
And these signals often disguise themselves as temporary business necessities, don't they?
They do. But if they persist, they are massive red flags.
Let's walk through what these actually look like in practice. The most common one mentioned in the text is doing the job of a person at the next grade up for more than 6 months, but without the title or the pay to match.
Yes.
You are essentially providing the company with free, high-level labor under the vague promise of, like, proving yourself.
Or consider the external hiring budget versus the internal retention budget. You might discover that new hires brought in at your exact level and doing the exact same work are starting at salaries significantly higher than what you currently earn after years of service.
Oh, that one really stings.
It's infuriating.
And it usually ties into this next signal. You ask for a raise, and you are repeatedly told that budgets are frozen or times are tight. Yet you watch the organization invest freely in other departments, or they suddenly find hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring in a new executive.
Typical. You also have to watch how you are treated interpersonally. Are promises for promotions or pay reviews continually delayed with shifting excuses?
We'll talk about it next quarter.
Exactly. Does your manager take credit for your work in senior meetings without acknowledging your specific contribution? Has your workload doubled due to layoffs without a single conversation about adjusting your compensation?
All huge red flags. And take a look around you, too. Are the most talented, driven people in your department leaving?
That's a big one.
Yeah. When you grab a private coffee with them to ask why they're leaving, are their reasons disturbingly similar to your own daily frustrations?
Usually, yes.
And finally, the deepest internal signal. You feel a profound sense of guilt for even updating your resume or looking at other opportunities.
That guilt is a trap.
It is. That guilt means the organization has successfully merged your personal identity with your utility to them.
Very well said.
Now, let me ask you this, because it's so easy to just villainize the corporate world. If I'm listening to this, and I recognize 3 or 4 of these signs in my own job, is my company being intentionally malicious?
That's a really common fear.
Like, are there executives sitting in a boardroom actively plotting to hold me down?
It is so important to understand from the research that in almost every case, no, it is not malicious.
Really? It feels malicious.
I know it feels personal, but if you are experiencing these signs, you are definitely being taken advantage of, but not out of malice. It is simply optimization.
Optimization.
Yes. Organizations are designed to optimize for their own financial interests. From a purely operational perspective, having a highly competent, loyal employee who delivers great work and never demands a market rate salary, that is an incredibly successful business strategy for them.
Wow. It's just smart resource allocation.
Exactly. They aren't evil. They're just doing business. The solution isn't for you to build up years of resentment. The solution is to recognize that they are deploying a strategy, and you need to deploy your own strategy right back.
Okay, we should also balance this out, though, because we aren't saying you should treat every employer like an adversary.
No, not at all.
There are absolutely environments where loyalty is a two-way street and is genuinely warranted.
Without a doubt. And a healthy environment where loyalty is deserved has very clear markers.
Like what?
Well, your compensation is proactively reviewed and adjusted to match the external market rate. Your specific contributions are recognized publicly. There is a tangible, actionable path for your advancement, and the organization actually invests in your skill development.
Ultimately, you should feel energized more days than you feel drained.
Exactly.
But as our sources brilliantly point out, your career is not a marriage. You do not owe it monogamy.
I love that quote. Which brings us to the actual mechanics of solving this. If blind, static loyalty is draining our financial futures, the antidote is what the text calls strategic career movement.
Strategic career movement. And let's clarify how to actually execute this, because it is not about reckless job hopping.
No.
You aren't just rage quitting every 8 months because you got annoyed with the project. It is about managing your career with the exact same intentionality and cold math that you would use to manage a retirement portfolio.
That's the perfect analogy.
Right. If you had your life savings in a mutual fund that consistently underperformed the market for 5 years, you wouldn't leave it there just out of loyalty to the bank manager.
Of course not.
You would move the money. Your career, which is your primary wealth-generating asset, it deserves that exact same logic.
To manage that asset effectively, the sources lay out 5 core rules for strategic movement.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
Rule number 1.
Yeah.
Always be mildly on the market.
I love the mechanics of this. Being mildly on the market doesn't mean you are desperately firing off 50 resumes every weekend.
Right.
It just means keeping your LinkedIn updated. It means when a recruiter messages you, you actually take the 15-minute phone call, even if you love your current job.
Why is that?
Because that recruiter is giving you free market research. Knowing exactly what other companies are paying for your specific skill set makes you a vastly stronger negotiator where you currently are.
Spot on. And that leads directly to rule number 2. How you handle leaving. If you do discover you are paying a massive loyalty tax, you can absolutely use an external offer to negotiate a better salary internally.
Right.
But there is a critical rule here. Negotiate hard before leaving. But if you actually tender your resignation and they panic and offer you a counteroffer, never accept it.
Let's break down why counteroffers are so toxic. If you go to resign and suddenly HR magically finds an extra $20,000 a year to keep...
They always had that money.
Exactly. They always had it. They just actively chose not to give it to you until you forced their hand.
Furthermore, accepting a counteroffer breaks the trust dynamic. They now know you have one foot out the door. Often they are just paying you that extra money to buy themselves 6 months to find your cheaper replacement.
Wow, that is cutthroat.
It is. Rule number 3. Move for growth. You have to ensure you are moving for the right reasons. You should be moving for growth, not just chasing a slight bump in cash.
Right, because sometimes the best strategic move isn't the one with the highest immediate salary. You have to evaluate your career in 5-year arcs, not monthly pay slips.
Exactly. Does this new role give you a prestigious brand name on your resume? Does it expose you to a highly valued new technology?
Which feeds into rule number 4, build transferable skills relentlessly.
Yes. Because building transferable skills is your ultimate protection. Organizations can restructure, they can lay you off, and they can take away your job title.
But they cannot repossess your skills.
Never. If you continually invest in your leadership abilities, your financial acumen, your digital fluency, you ensure that the broader market will always want you.
And finally, rule 5. You have to proactively cultivate your external network.
This is so neglected.
It really is. We spend so much time building political capital inside our current company, but if you get laid off, that internal capital just vanishes overnight.
Poof, gone.
You need to talk to industry peers, maintain relationships with former colleagues, and stay visible. When a truly great opportunity opens up at a new company, it almost always goes to the person the hiring manager already knows and trusts.
To put all of this into practice, the sources suggest 3 very specific actions you can take this week to regain control of your career trajectory.
Okay, action items. I like it.
First, calculate your own loyalty tax.
Yes, actually do the math. Go to Glassdoor or talk to a recruiter in your field. Find out exactly what someone with your exact skills and experience earns on the open market right now.
And then compare that number to your current salary.
Multiply that gap by the number of years you feel you've been underpaid. Write that massive compounded number down on a sticky note. Just look at it. Understand exactly what your loyalty is costing you.
Sobering. Second action, update your resume. A resume is not a resignation letter. It is a living professional asset.
Treat it like one.
Exactly. And third, start systematically building up 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Impulsive exits driven by frustration often lead to lateral moves or pay cuts.
Right, because you're desperate.
Exactly. You want a financial cushion so that when you do decide to leave, you negotiate from a position of absolute power and you leave on your own terms.
To bring this all full circle, I want to look back at the woman from the very beginning of our deep dive today.
The one with the WhatsApp message?
Yes, the one who endured the 40-minute HR redundancy meeting and the cold text after 11 years of devotion. She didn't just survive that structural betrayal. It took some time and a lot of self-doubt, but she eventually leveraged her immense skill set to land somewhere remarkable.
Oh, that's great to hear.
She secured a new role that paid her 40% more than she had ever earned, working under a manager who actively championed her development.
40% more. And her reflection on the entire ordeal is really profound. She realized that the redundancy didn't break her. It broke her free.
Yeah.
She said, I just wish I hadn't needed it to give me permission to go.
I just wish I hadn't needed it to give me permission to go. If you are listening to this right now, feeling that slow drain in your own career, wondering if your loyalty is being exploited, you do not need a redundancy notice to give you permission to look out for yourself.
No, you don't.
You already have it.
You do. And as we wrap up, there is one final, entirely different perspective planted in the research that is worth exploring on your own.
Oh, what's that?
It's the entrepreneurship question.
Okay.
If you are capable of delivering exceptional results, enduring high stress, and offering years of steadfast dedication to grow someone else's organization, what would happen if you directed that exact same excellence toward building something of your own?
Wow, that is a fascinating pivot.
Right. You don't have to quit your day job tomorrow. But dedicating a fraction of your weekly energy to building a small side income stream or a consulting practice to something incredible, it radically reduces your financial dependence on a single employer.
It changes the power dynamic.
Entirely. Ironically, stepping slightly away and diversifying your income makes you a much more powerful negotiator at your primary job because you simply no longer need them the way you once did.
That's brilliant.
It transforms your career from a place of captivity to a place of choice. It's definitely something to mull over.
That is such a powerful reframe to end on. So the next time you're sitting at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon feeling that tension, remember, you are managing an asset. The inner workings of corporate loyalty might seem murky, but the math is crystal clear. Protect your worth. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.